job for the moment
Yeah.
is teaching English. And I teach at a private school. And it's a very interesting method because it's using self-hypnosis. The students all, if they agree to do the formation, they do first a formation of self-hypnosis. So they work with a hypnosis specialist and they learn how to put themselves into a state of alpha, which is a state of hypnosis, which is a natural state for every person.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that state that we pass before we fall asleep, in fact, or before we start to dream.
Yeah.
Yes, and we are very susceptible to many things at that moment, and language is one of those things. That's the idea. That's the idea. The idea is that when we are in a alpha state, we are more like children. So as children, we learn a language through hearing and repetition.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know what the words mean, but by seeing the object and hearing the name over and over again, we understand that that is a cup, that is a plate, that is a tree, because we see it and we hear the word repeated. So in fact, the method of this language course is to get the person in a relaxed state, where they are not self-conscious, where they're not in a state of judgment, and where, most importantly, where the left and right brain hemispheres are functioning at the same time.
All right.
Because we live in a world where we learn a lot of things through one hemisphere.
Yeah.
And not the other.
You have the impression you have to choose between left or
right. Yes, and we don't even know that. I mean, we're not aware that that's happening at the time, but it is happening.
Okay.
Yeah, and so this is a method that is designed to help the brain absorb the language through memorization and repetition, as we learn when we're children. So they do a formation before they start their courses with a hypnosis specialist. She or he teaches them how to put themselves in a state of self-hypnosis, or alpha state, which is actually just a simple state of relaxation. You close your eyes, you basically, you relax your body from the toes up, and then
you recenter.
Yeah, and it's putting yourself into the state that we naturally go into shortly before sleep. And it allows the brain to absorb information in a different way. I don't have a calling card. Because if I had a calling card, it would have like 10 things on it.
Yeah, well, I would like to hear the 10 things.
Teacher. Teacher. Makeup artist. I don't know. I would have to rethink that all, because I don't believe that what we put on our calling cards is always necessarily what we're capable of and what we have to offer to other people. I think, calling cards could come a long way. We could make them more specific to the actual skills that we can offer people, as opposed to a career, or as opposed to a métier. Because every person is so capable of so many things that it's hard to put ourselves on a card. With the method that I'm teaching with, what I really like is the intimacy of it. So every class is 3 hours long. The student comes in, and every locale, every classroom is a bed and a desk. Yes? Yes, because the student comes in, you greet your student, you pass the office, just to make sure that they have all of their appointments in order. And then you take your student one-on-one to the room, the classroom, and you ask them about how their week has been with their recordings, because we make recordings for them as well that they have to listen to between classes, because it's really also about auditive retention. So we have a small conversation about also how they feel about the self-hypnosis and how easily they go into it or not. Because first of all, you have to have a certain mindset to be able to allow yourself to go into the state. If you have any doubts or anything about this kind of a method, there's no way it's going to work for someone. So we start with a conversation, and then I leave the student, and they put themselves into alpha. So we leave them for about 5 minutes. We come back into the room, and they're comfortable with blankets and a pillow. They're on the bed. They can take off their shoes, whatever they need to do to make themselves more comfortable. And they just get into a very comfortable state, eyes closed. So people have different kinds of alpha as well. Some people have active alpha, where they ask questions, and I mean they're not really. Some people really go in, and they're just like rah, 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 they just want to repeat, because it's so the syllabus is based on the idea of repetition. So we have a set syllabus. So no, not at all. It's very specific. It's incredibly specific. It's based on French. So our translation language is French. So this course is definitely designed for French-speaking people who want to learn another language. I'll say that up front. So the syllabus, we start with to be, for example.
Yeah.
And they're there, and you just, the professor, me, I say it in English, or if it's Italian, the professor says it in Italian, then in French, and then in the desired language to learn. So desired language, French, desired language. Then the student repeats the line minimum 5 times. Minimum 5 times, and then the translation at the end as a sort of afterthought, just to anchor the idea. This method obviously works better with people who have already a base, because many people learn visually. So this method is not necessarily, it's not perfect for people who don't have a base or people who learn very visually, because it's auditive. And they repeat the phrases in the desired language, and then the translation at the end, and then we continue. And then after, let's say 40 minutes, we tell the student to go deeper into alpha. Sometimes they fall asleep, which is beautiful. That's a good sign. And we make a recording. We make a recording of all of the things that we've just covered, so that they can listen to that between their courses. They listen to it passively in their car. They can listen to it while they're washing the dishes. They can listen to it while they're doing laundry, but in passive moments. And then we give them 5 phrases to try to use, really to use in public with other people. So what I really like about this method, but it's complicated, but what I really, really like about it is that it is intimate, and you have to be for example, if someone is too tired, they'll almost immediately want to fall asleep. Or if they've had a moment of stress, a stressful situation before they come to their class, they find it more difficult to get into a good alpha state. And then I make other recommendations. I say, okay, would you just like me to do the recording now? So that way, it's still going into their brains. when I'm doing the recording, it's going in. The brain is an amazing thing. And one day I had a student, and she had been sick and she was completely stressed, and so I said, would you just like to do conversation? Because she had a good base already. And this is for people who are more timid to let the language out, in fact. So she said, yeah, I would prefer that. So then she got up from the bed, and she sat across from me, and we just had a conversation. And also because of the fatigue, I've noticed in my experience from lots of things that fatigue can bring us to a base place, in fact. And sometimes it can do the same thing that alpha does and alleviate insecurities. And it just puts us really on a base level. And because it's a one-on-one situation, it's not a classroom situation, people are more comfortable. And we had a beautiful conversation about, you know, everything that was happening. It can be a kind of therapy, I think, as well for people. Because when we get to the conversation level, they feel very comfortable with the professor, and they reveal themselves, which is very beautiful.
About?
I miss a team environment because it's very one-on-one.
Yeah.
We arrive at work, we check who our student is, we get the syllabus, we prepare for the class, and it's very intimate, but I miss working with a team.
I mean,
Which is there amongst the other teachers, but we never have time together, except outside activities, which we do from time to time. But it's I miss the team experience, and because it's a fixed syllabus, I do miss creative aspects as well. How did I get there? Well, I was dancing and dancing and dancing, and then I got too old to dance and I was put out to pasture. And so a friend of mine has been working at this school for quite some time, and because it's my native language, she was looking, the boss was looking for native speakers. And my level of French was high enough that I could do the translations okay. And so I just sat down with Rosie, my boss, and we just talked for about 10 minutes, and she said, okay, you can follow some classes next week. And it was like that. It was, I didn't need to give her a CV, no resume. Because I was a native speaker, she was interested. And because I wanted work, and I found the method very interesting, we clicked. Special studies are necessary. No special studies are necessary for this particular school. Perhaps for other schools, teaching a second language, yes. For this school, it is required that you teach the given language as a native, that you speak the language as a native. Either you are a native speaker or that you've been speaking it long enough that you speak it as a native speaker. But also, you have to be willing at this particular place to be there. You have to be there. You have to be there. It's one-on-one. So there's no option of, you know, oh, I'm not feeling so well today. You're there. You're there. It's also, we are all quite responsible for ourselves. You know, the boss is there, she sets everything up, but we are all responsible for being there and for giving the classes. But no, there's not, other than being passionate about language, which I am, other than being passionate about language and being sensitive to other people, because you have to realize that they're in a sensitive state. I think that's also very important. to be open-minded, also, that there are different methods of learning. I think those are the most important things. But, big education, not necessarily. Would be, don't seek a career. My first advice
That's a good one.
definitely be, don't seek a career. Follow your joy. Follow your joy. Follow your dreams, follow your joy, and let it take you where it may lead you. And be flexible to change, and be flexible to allowing a job to change. Because the days of career are kind of over, let's face it. You know, flow and ebb and flow and change and hit waves and crash, become something else. But the most important thing is to follow your heart. And no matter what, I mean, my parents wanted me to get a university education. Woohoo! Yeah, get that diploma. And I was a dancer.